Don't leave forever. Not long at all. At number 54 on the list, it's Labyrinth. Welcome to Long Play Video. Yeah, here we are, back in the shop on a nice sunny Monday morning. I think actually, I get confused sometimes with the time.
It's been a long weekend for you, isn't it? I have no idea what day it is.
We need something to take the edge off in the morning. I think definitely a morning type of film before Watershed, because that's at number 54. We have the children's classic Labyrinth. What a classic from 1986.
Would you say it's definitely a children's classic? Is it the same way as a children's classic in the Never-Ending Stories? There seems to be just a plethora of dark children comedies from the 80s. Things were harder then. No one knows. I don't realise. The people don't appreciate it.
This is squarely in the Gen X generation for sure. But I mean, that's I mean, we talked a little bit about the dark fantasies and stuff.
Yeah,
ages ago. God, Never-Ending Story feels like a lifetime ago.
And I still haven't seen Sasha since. I mean, he went down a dark path, and I don't know what's happened to him.
He's just been reading a book by himself, and
just rocking in a corner
in some loft somewhere ever since. So Labyrinth. I can pass you over the DVD so you can have a look at it, and we can marvel at the cover. But presumably you know this film, you've seen this film as you are of an age.
I have seen this film. I will just say, just because I'm a great movie aficionado and I've seen all really good movies, but also possibly because of my age. Yeah, this is actually a pretty good DVD cover, I would say, especially considering it's the 80s. So it's obviously got the name at the front. It's got David Bowie, depending on your penchant. Him looking into three crystal balls that are in front of his face, in front of his eyes, and then it's got some scenes from the film on each of the crystal balls, which is pretty good. And you'd actually get the fantasy element from it in the content of those crystal balls, so that's pretty good. I don't think you quite get the extreme dark element, but but that's fine. It's I remember it being really good. I remember David Bowie being really good in it as well. Yeah, I think I remember vaguely, as I'm older, that it was Jennifer Connelly, but didn't register at all when I was younger. What do you know Jennifer Connelly from? So I was thinking about her career. Yeah. Oh, I can't remember. I can't remember. I mean, I do know her from things, but I can't remember what movies I would have seen her in. What's she famous for?
Well, I mean, she won the Oscar for obviously the type of film that you'd like, because it's someone standing in front of a chalkboard doing maths, for A Beautiful Mind. Probably sort of more like cult knowing wise for Requiem for a Dream, which obviously is a cult classic and considered sort of a classic, and obviously it's a pretty dark performance. All things considered, don't do drugs, kids. But then it's interesting because I think she's in sort of quite a few other films sort of as solid roles, but I would never sort of say
she's like lead in anything.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at her list. I mean, Alita Battle Angel, which I've only watched recently, and I couldn't even remember that it was her. But I did remember thinking it was a good performance by everyone. Yeah, so you think she's more supporting than lead.
I think funnily she's one of those people that I think a lot of people know, but then you are like, what was she in? And you're like, well, no, I can't really remember, because I remember her being in the new Top Gun, and everyone being like, oh, it's good that she's in the new Top Gun. And you're like, yeah. What's she from? And then you're like, well, she's from Labyrinth. And then you're just a bit like, she's been in tons of stuff, but I don't really remember what it was. She was 14 in this.
Wow.
When it was filmed, which is young. And again is like obviously a big performance from a child actress, because she is in basically every scene.
Yeah, this is definitely a theme that's coming out in your top 100 films. There's a lot of child actor performances that you appreciate. I honestly feel like secretly you wish that you you were an actor, and you're like, this is where it would have started. I'd have been so good.
Or I
Um,
watched these films when I was young and like had some empathy for the main character. Well, one or other.
one or the other. Yeah, 14 is young. That's very good. But I mean, we have seen some very good performances from young actors, so that is impressive.
Yeah.
What is your why is it on your list then? I mean, obviously, I don't know if it's just nostalgia or is it your actual the content of it.
Yeah, no, I think it's on the list for nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely on the list because this was kind of out of all of them, which we kind of talked a bit about, I think, on Neverending Story. Out of all of the sort of the kids, a little bit dark, sort of, yeah, dark fantasy films. I think this is my favorite because it is just almost unapologetically weird. And I just
Yeah.
like that. Like it is different to anything else that you would see, even, even probably now. I think it sort of stands up for the creativity of it, and I always like that. And as a kid, I always like this film sort of a bit more, just because because of the characters, and
Yeah.
it builds an entire world that you kind of you go into, and always like that as a kid. And then funnily enough, I watched it recently. I actually watched it with my daughter, who watched it and enjoyed it and liked it.
Yeah, that's
Because
good.
we'd
Even the
we'd sit,
darkness.
because I think you don't pick up on that as much when you're a kid. You kind of know that it's a bit weird.
Okay.
And funnily enough, on the rewatch, what I was sort of pretty unprepared for. So I think it's actually like got real levels to it, and it sort of it is the story of sort of someone going from like being a kid into sort of more of a grown up, and into sort of the teenage years, and about what you have to sort of leave behind and what you don't. And it's funny, without any spoilers, but like I think at sort of at the time you sort of think of her as, well, I think when I first sort of watch it, you're like, oh, it's a wicked stepmother, and she's being really put upon, and then she's really noble, and she has to sort of go out and save the baby. And then you sort of watch it now, and you're just like, well, the mum isn't really that horrible. She just expects her to let her know where she's going, and as a parent, you're sort of like, oh no, she's actually just a bit of a teenage nightmare. But that's sort of the thing. Like it really, on the rewatch with my daughter, it really I was really impressed. Again, a bit like The Fall. If you think of it as completely from her point of view, and like the entire film is kind of created by her, and on like the research, all of the characters that are in the film are actually in her bedroom to begin with. Like there's sort of either stuffed toys or stuff like that. So it is almost sort of her journey as she grows up. And I would say, like, it was the same when I watched Footloose, funnily enough.
What a comparison. I mean, everyone always says the two big things for the 80s, obviously, is Labyrinth and Footloose.
It was going to be being an actor or being a dancer, obviously. Footloose taught me how to dance. But rewatching Footloose fairly recently, in the last sort of few years, I'd never got the entire thing about, that it is actually a film about a grieving father. And it kind of hit completely differently. Because John Lithgow is for the story's sake, is almost the main character. And it's him sort of dealing with the death of his son and stuff like that. Was obviously watching it for the first 40 years of my life. I was like, oh no, it's cool because he gets everyone to dance.
He dances around everywhere. Look at you. Look how your views are changing. Like now that as you're getting older, I don't know. Is this good or bad? Is this when you start liking gardening? And I'm like, oh no, we've lost him. Something's gone wrong.
Maybe it's when I start doing amateur dramatics, and I do like local plays and stuff. I've put on a performance of Labyrinth. Actually, I was I played the Bowie part.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I guess, yeah, there's not too much. I mean, I remember some of the key pieces from it in the, like some of the key scenes. I don't obviously, go into spoilers now, but I remember some of the key elements from it. But yeah, I don't necessarily remember that thread, as you're saying, of the journey of someone growing up and almost like, I guess, is it similar to, like, I guess, Alice in Wonderland in that sense, in that, yeah, you're going through a journey and leaving, and that journey, what you don't realize is leaving behind your childhood and moving into, I guess, like a tween or whatever it might be, or a teenager, and they have created that journey into a story, and that's obviously the film
Yeah.
that we see. So yeah, so I haven't noticed that before, so I'll look out for that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, and definitely. Yeah, I mean, Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz. There's definitely sort of hallmarks, and I think actually both of them kind of
Yeah.
feature in the background, like on her bookshelf. I think both of them are there,
Okay.
along with like Where the Wild Things Are, and yeah, sort of
Yeah.
other sort of references. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I watched it, as I say, like probably a year ago. And kind of, I think because I think originally I'd been explaining who David Bowie was to
Yeah.
my daughter, because there's a couple of David Bowie songs that she likes,
Yeah.
because she just has to listen to things like David Bowie. I don't let her listen to anything else, and then she chooses
Yeah.
which song she likes.
Yeah. Nice.
And we'd played I played her the video of the like the bit where he's dancing with the baby. No spoilers.
Yeah.
So
Big
like
spoiler,
yeah,
but
so
yeah.
she kind of had seen that. So then I was like, oh well, maybe we can watch the entire film. And yeah, funnily enough, yeah, she didn't really get scared at any of it. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
it was
really
nice. And
good.
then yeah, she did enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's so there's, and we will talk about them, but there's so many bits that are just really creative. I mean, Jim Henson, obviously sort of
Yeah.
of Muppets fame, and all of the characters are really well formed, and all of the puppets are amazing. But like just even sort of the sets, and yeah, there's so many bits that are just like so creative. I mean, obviously,
Yeah.
it's Jim Henson and
Didn't realize
uh,
that.
yeah, George Lucas actually sort of helped with the edit, and Lucasfilm helped with different bits of it. And actually, funnily enough, Terry Jones from Monty Python sort of wrote the
Oh,
first
wow.
script that then kind of did apparently get changed quite a lot. But you think, yeah,
Yeah.
almost in the 80s,
Blimey.
that's quite a creative tree
Yeah.
to come together on one film. Although, funnily enough, it didn't do very well at the cinema, and especially did really quite badly in the US. It was only kind of
Really?
when it went worldwide. It was huge in the UK. It was like number one for ages, but in the
Yeah.
US, it sort of debuted at like number 13 or number 8, I think, on when it actually came out.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that was Jim Henson actually apparently got sort of quite depressed about how badly it done.
Was
When
it
it came
any
out.
reason? Did you find any information about why? I mean, do they say why? Or was it just that? I mean, I guess it is. It is a bit dark, isn't it? So I can understand it's not in the 80s as well. Like as a kids movie, like you probably would go and see something different, right? You wouldn't necessarily see a dark film. So
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
feel like there were more dark kids films at the time,
yeah,
but I think I don't know the difference. It was also quite a stacked. It was also sort of quite a stacked time. I think like some of the
right,
films that it came out at the same time. I think like Karate Kid 2, Ferris Bueller. There was like a lot of the films where I remember sort of reading and being like, oh, actually, like there's a lot of like big films that came out at
yeah,
the same time.
yeah,
So Karate Kid 2, Back to School, Legal Eagles, Ruthless People, Running Scared, Top Gun, and Ferris Bueller. It's,
yeah. Okay,
it's quite
yeah.
a
So
list of
yeah.
80s classics.
Funny though, isn't it? Because she definitely went to the cinema more in the 80s, and obviously didn't have as many options from like TV, and streaming wasn't obviously a thing. So you
Yeah.
definitely did go to the cinema more. But I guess I don't know. There's like you said, there are maybe a lot of classics on that list. Maybe yeah, maybe just two. Labyrinth was just one too many. I don't know. I'll be really keen to see if this dates well, or if it's actually looks a bit questionable. I mean, I feel like the puppets will look good, but I'll be interested to see if everything else comes together nicely.
Yeah, I think that's almost sort of with a little bit of nostalgia and kind of looking back at it. you kind of forgive the bits that don't look completely realistic because you're like, well, it's from the 80s. So I think there's a little bit of that. I think if you went to see it in the 80s, like some of it just doesn't look real. And I guess almost in the sort of the same way now, if the CGI isn't like perfect, people are like, oh, well, I don't really like it because CGI isn't great. And you're like, well, yeah, but you can see what they're trying to do, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I think with a bit of hindsight now, you're kind of like, well, that's clearly not a real baby, as an example. but you're
spoiler
kind of like,
central.
but you're like, oh, but it was the 80s, so it's kind of fine. So I think, it does maybe with a bit of, I can imagine if you watched it at the time, you'd be a bit like, well, first of all, I think you'd be like, what on earth was that?
So I've got a great comparison for you, which would be the obvious comparison to me. So I have just recently watched Tango and Cash.
Very similar genre. We'll be talking about later in the list, or will we? Don't know.
And I actually, there's a couple of scenes in there where they just moved the film along, and they're like, just don't worry about it. We're moving it along. Don't worry about why that happened or why. And I was thinking, it's almost like the 80s treat us more like adults, and now we're becoming less like adults. And they have to like one of the Avenger films where they're like, oh yeah, all the superheroes actually blew up all these, buildings, and actually people died and got crushed in them. You're like, yeah, guys, like, obviously that would happen, but it's a superhero film. Let's just suspend belief and move on. And I think there's a DC one as well, a Superman one as well. And I'm like, I don't want to now watch a film about the people that died
legal
because
litigation.
Exactly.
the court, Marvel bring out a court drama about the people, class action lawsuit against Captain America. You're like, this is ruining the fun a bit, guys. I don't know.
I don't know. Might be making Captain America better, but so I just think that's the thing with the 80s. You just move on. You just go, oh yeah, we'll just accept it and move on. It's a film. Like none of this, like, oh, everything has to be perfect. So
I think like non-realistic as well. Like it doesn't have to. It's the balance between sort of realism and entertainment, which I think we've talked about a few times over the different movies. And that's the thing. Like, for this, because I'm trying to think how she actually, spoilers, gets into the goblin world, and like I don't think there's anything where she like hits her head, or she like, usually there's an event where you're like, oh, is she dreaming, is she not? Whereas I don't think they'd sort of bother with that in this. They're just like, okay, well now you're in the goblin world, and that's like, there's no like, oh yeah, but you might not be, but you might be. Is this real? Is this not real? It's just like, well, we just want to get to the goblin world because that would be fun. So let's just get there, rather than like, there doesn't have to be an explanation for this weird world that she ends up in. It's just like, well, it's just a film. Let's just go with it.
Yeah, and that's what I love. That, and I do think that you get more of that in the 80s. Is that like
now he's sounding old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know. It's awful, isn't it? But I just think there's more of that, right? There's more of the just they're not as worried about the realism, because you didn't have the functionality to be able to generate the realism. Now we have CGI, you have AI, and so there is more chance to make things more realistic, and consequently, like you're saying, sometimes there's an expectation that it should be more realistic, and then there's a disappointment if it's not. Whereas really, it should just be like, this is a film that's, as we've said before, it's all about entertainment. It's taking you away from, a bit of escapism. That's the whole point. So, I'm always a big fan of these sort of movies. I mean, I'll be amazed if I don't like this. I'll watch it again. I'll be disappointed, but you never know.
Your track record recently hasn't we've gone down a blind alley. You've not been. Will it be an Empire of the Sun or Life is Beautiful? It's not like either of those films. I think I won't bother with the prediction. Like, do you remember, like, sort of really, was this one of your favorite kids movies from the 80s? Was it just sort of there? Like, what's your baseline that you're coming from?
I do remember liking it. I do remember thinking it was good. I think more for me, I remember more kids movies from the 90s, and those sort of, starting to get into those sort of Disney animation films. So that's probably more my, where I started really liking those films. But yeah, for me, I think that I remember this being a good film. I'd be surprised if I don't like it. Yeah, I think it'll be good. I'm fully behind this one. Finally, we get to one on the list that should be good. But who knows? Maybe it won't.
Well, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if you have the same reaction after the rewatch that I had. So
Yeah.
okay, well, yeah, we'll put it on. We'll see you after the jump.
Magical but weird. I don't know. Like,
I mean, completely fair, I think, on both counts.
I actually thought it stood up as a whole. I thought it stood up really well. Still, I was very impressed. I think we had this with a Neverending Story as well. Like the puppets, like the models are actually like there's obviously was an art form that was going through in the 80s, and it was really, really impressive. The puppets were incredible, and the story is pretty cool. Like it's very clever. They add in a lot of different like dynamics to make it difficult to get through the labyrinth, which is obviously that's the whole part of it. So I think on the whole, like I really enjoyed it. Obviously, David Bowie I thought was brilliant as well. He's just
we didn't talk about him much before the film, did we? I don't think we did.
No.
We didn't really cover him, but yeah, he's just perfect for it, isn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's an eccentric character, which you kind of feel like he was like that as well. And I was saying while I was watching it, I was just saying that it's classic when you get like an actor or singer in, you're like, great, well, you also sing, so we're going to get you to act, but we're also going to get you to write 3 songs, and you're going to sing them all. So it's just like almost immediately like it's part of the contract. Well, you are going to have to sing songs, just so you know.
And sing the theme tune.
Yeah. Oh, Dennis Waterman. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I thought it still held up really well. Yeah. What did you think?
Did you on sort of before I sort of said about it, like having that little bit of extra depth and sort of coming from her point of view and being sort of more about that like teenage journey, did you watch it just being like, what's Andy talking about?
Did
he sort of
like the journey for teenage girls is weird. Yeah. I wasn't sure I necessarily saw it as that. I think it's still just I don't know. I think I still just got lost in it. Like you're still just enjoying it.
Yeah.
And because I haven't seen it for a while, you just think you're like, oh my God, that bit's so weird. Who would, and I'm just thinking, how would they have come up with this? Whose mind has come up? Like there were so many scenarios like that where I didn't actually, I'm gonna have to watch it again and get back into that second layer, see if I noticed it. But there were so many sections, like the door knockers, the doors, the worm, all these little characters that appear at the start and are so good. And when they're talking about the opening and it's like, there's one straight in front of you. It's like, no, it's a wall. No, it is. And it's actually just depth perspective and it's different. And I was like, so clever. Really good idea. Yeah. So
I love the fact with the worm where he says, hello. She says, did you just say hello? He said, nah. I said, hello. Close enough.
Yeah. I'll let you off. Yeah. So yeah, I did think there was probably 20 minutes, I think it's from about the hour mark to about an hour and 20 where I was like, I feel like they had some filler that they've just put in here. It goes proper weird and crazy. Like 2 specific scenes, the dancing scene, which is bizarre.
Which dancing scene?
When she eats the peach and then she gets transported to this sort of the ballroom. Yeah, that's weird. And then the fox scene as well, when they're trying to cross the bridge, that just gets extended a bit too much. And I was like, we got this. We got it, guys. Even Hoggle's moved on. He's like, I've had enough of this. I'm over the bridge and I'm out of it.
I'm just going.
But no, I really enjoyed it. Much more actually than Neverending Story. I feel like it holds together so much more than Neverending Story.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think because they've clearly got a lot of different, so not even set pieces, but characters and sort of settings that they want to put in there. I would say I was watching it this time. The songs were almost, I don't know, a bit more bizarre. I was just a bit like, why is there is this a musical? Is this?
Yeah.
I just didn't really, I was just sort of thinking about it and being like, why are there songs in it? And like the sort of you remind me of the Babe one
Yeah.
is kind of like, that's
Classic.
cool because you're just like, okay, yeah, they're all standing around. But then I hadn't
Yeah.
actually thought about like all of the other songs. And for me,
Yeah.
the one where they're swapping the heads and like the
Oh
fire
my God. Yeah.
creatures, that
Yeah.
that for me is where it feels a bit long. I'm not sure
Yeah.
whether that works quite so
Yeah.
well. And the fact that there is a song there as well is just a bit bizarre. And then obviously the
Yeah.
songs at the end. But yeah, it is funny you sort of say that, because you're just like, well, why did they put songs into this? I just don't like. There's no other reference to music as well, because everything in the film, there's like there's stuff in her room at the start that sort of has a impact on it. But it's not
Yeah.
like even there's a line where she's like, oh, I just really like songs. I'm really into
Yeah.
my music. I'm just refreshing
Yeah.
to get my Oasis tickets. Like there's nothing that sort of hints that if she imagined a world, there would be singing in
Yeah.
it. So then it's
Yeah.
like, why are there songs in this? Oh, it's because you got David Bowie.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, you got to build the talent, haven't you? But yeah, you're right. That sort of Fraggle Rock scene with the heads, that was super weird as well. There are just a couple of like and it's a shame because the rest of it seems actually quite polished and quite well. Like they move it from one section to the next section to the next section with nice, clever little riddles or things to get through, and have completely different random things like the helping hands as she's falling down and they're catching her. That's a genius, like creative thought to use something different like that. And I really felt like it was so good. And then you get to that bit and you're like, okay, there's so someone went for a coffee break here and someone else took over. George and Jim come back and go, what have you done? What's happened?
Who's put this in? That was the work experience kid. Yeah, the hands especially, I think, are amazing. It's like the way they make faces and they don't make the same face twice. Like they literally every single face is different, so that it's not like they're sort of a bit lazy and they're just like, oh, okay, have eyes and a mouth and that's it. Like they make a different face each time, which I think is amazing. I don't know why she chose down as the direction.
Yes, I wrote that down as well. I was like, whoever chooses down, no one.
Oh, I'm facing that way. Yeah, because you've fallen from the place you're supposed to be. So why would you choose down? That's
that was strange. But then they got her through the labyrinth, so maybe she was right. But it was a little bit strange. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was good. There wasn't really anything I specifically noticed this time round compared to others, other than just thinking, oh my God, how did someone think about this? Like the creativity of the hands or, the different elements and how good the puppets actually were. But there wasn't anything that I remember thinking, oh, I don't remember that at all. Anything that you've probably seen it more recent than me, but is anything you remember?
Yeah, as I say, we watched it pretty recently, and so yes, the hands holds up for an 8-year-old sort of watching it and enjoying it as well. I would sort of say I think it is, and what I do like about it is the fact that it is basically just her imagination, right? And you start with her sort of acting in the middle of the park just by herself, which is really weird. Like, well, I don't know what she's doing. And I was thinking, was that just her? Has she just invented cosplay? Was she doing cosplay before everyone else? And I think there's loads of times when they just basically they invent things. Then she runs home. Did you know? I did notice. So she's wearing a dress in the cosplay, like a sort of a like theater dress. She takes that dress off because she's getting wet, and then she has another of those dresses on underneath, because when she arrives at home she's wearing like a theater dress. So you're like, you were wearing a dress on top of a dress. Like that's a bit strange.
She obviously was from the UK and it's always raining. You never know. You got to be prepared with double dresses.
Just have 2 dresses on all the time. And then the fact, but like I do like the fact that it once the parents go out. I mean, again, parents being missing in a 80s movies, classic trope, leaving your child with a 14-year-old. Again, not sure they do that these days. Saying
we'll
that you should have dates. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it'll just be back in midnight. And then at the end, he's like, "Oh, Sarah, are you here?" And you're like, she's looking after your kid. So hopefully, like, there's no note of panic in his voice. He's like, no, she's gone out again. It's midnight.
Yeah.
My baby's been here by themselves. It's just like, are you here? Okay, good. Yeah, because you are looking after a baby.
Could you imagine if you were a teenager and you've been looking after your brother, and then your parents come back and you're like, oh, I'm so exhausted looking after this baby, and then at midnight come in all like tanked up or booze, shouting in the house and going, oh, are you up? You'd be like, I'm asleep, leave me alone.
Waking up the baby.
Yeah.
But then
still
like
on the clock. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I'll have my £4, please. But like then it just completely just goes into the fantasy world without any like without anything. Like she turns around and she's in the labyrinth, and also she's just quite with it. She's like, oh, all right then. There's no like, how did I get here, or is she sleeping, or did she hit her head? Like on both ends of the sort of being in the goblin world, they just it's almost just a resolve, and then it's there, and I like that because I do think it's entirely out of her imagination, and I think that like that almost is the thing, is that it's so imaginative and it's out of her imagination, and she's quite kiddish when she starts, but then at the end she sort of realizes that actually maybe she shouldn't be like quite so it's sort of that there is a time when you do have to start packing up everything, but then at the same time it's like, but then I do still need you, and like I do still want my imagination to be a part of it. So I really like that sort of that interplay, and like that there's not almost a get out for the audience or for the story to make sense. It's like, oh, she hit her head, or oh, she fell asleep, she wakes up on the sofa. Is not they don't bother. They're just like, no, you're just going to be standing in your house after standing in the castle, so we don't really care. So
no, I think you're right, and that, we said this I think in the first part was about movies in the 80s, that they just do that. They just move things along and didn't worry about things. Like I think it was 10 minutes in and she hits the goblin world, and I'm like, wow, this has moved at a pace already. And I think it's just better, isn't it? Like you just get on with it and just go, well, let's not worry about the details of whether the goblin world exists or whatever, but
how long it takes to get there and stuff. And
it was a bit weird. I did think, because she's like you said, she's 14. I was thinking, I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty sure when I was 14, I didn't have any teddy bears anymore. I certainly didn't I'm sure I wasn't still talking to one of them. So that was a little bit weird. She had like
you weren't telling Mr. Teddington all of your when you had a bad day.
My darkest secrets. Very bizarre. And then it was weird. She had like poster of like cats and Evita in her bedroom, and also 12,000 teddies. And I was like,
but I think that's supposed to be her mum. I think that's supposed to be her mum is in those things.
Okay.
Because you see like photos of her and her mum, and then you see photos of like her mum and a guy who looks quite like David Bowie in the mirror, and then it's her mum who's Evita. But that is also like that was also teenagehood, right? Where you start getting into like more grown up things. And then you also
like that seemed fine, but it didn't work with the teddy bears. I was like, why are the teddies still here? This seems strange. But was there anything you felt?
Some people aren't dead inside, Kev. Some people hold on to their kids stuff a bit more.
Gifted has hit you hard, hasn't it? You're really not letting that one go.
if you can't be sentimental, I mean, obviously you're not going to be sentimental. I did also think like the last bit with David Bowie, when he's like, I've done everything you wanted me to be. Like, you want me to be scary, I've been scary. You wanted me to, and I thought it was a good introduction to gaslighting, actually, for any teenage girl. And I presume that you really connected with that because of the film's going up or down.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't think there was. I know we spoke about this at the start about Bowie's character and whether it was, questionable between him and her. I thought the ball was a bit weird, but other than that, I thought it seemed okay. I didn't think there was any like allurement or any sort of sensual connection that was supposed to be between them. I don't know if you found anything.
I think they play it really well because like I think he is creepy, but like that's almost. It is again the view of a 14-year-old of like what a like goblin prince sort of seduction should be. So it's like sort of trying, almost not trying to be seductive, but like just being weird and almost very non-sexual, because it's actually just like that's what a 14-year-old thinks an older man who's good looking would be, right? And there's actually it's just quite funny, because you're like, yeah, but like no, because that's that. And then obviously he's sort of reading from like the script at the end, when I think it is like, oh, well, you just you can be my slave, all you have to do is no, I can be your slave, all you have to do is everything that I say, and stuff like that. And again, I think it's very almost childlike, which then has a little bit of innocence to it, because you can't honestly say that there's no sexual tension or anything like that, because it is, for me, like the film does that really well, of like, as a little bit as we said with we said before watching like The Fall, it's from her point of view, and so it is from a 14-year-old's point of view, so everything's sort of simple, like it's either good or bad, or it's there's no almost gray areas, because she doesn't know any gray areas. And I think that's a bit like with her relationship with him as well. It's just like, okay, well, he's he's seductive, but almost in a non sort of seductive type way, just in a bit of a weird way. So
I didn't feel like there was any like sexual stuff or sensual stuff at all. So I thought for me it held up okay. But yes, it's one of those ones I could see how people might watch it now and think, oh, well, this is ridiculous. But I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Is it naivety that we're saying that it's innocent, or is it just innocent? Because it didn't feel strange to me. But I don't know. Maybe other people might think differently. But do you think was that the only
girl?
I'm not 40.
I would say I think that the Masquerade Ball, honestly, is still like the like a visual cue. Anytime that I see those types of masks, and like I've been to Venice, I've been to one masquerade thing. It was a Halloween thing, and everyone all had to wear masks and stuff. But honestly, I think whenever I see like in anything else a Masquerade Ball, I just the like reference point is
of David
still
Bowie.
Labyrinth. I still do, because it's so weird, because they're all like, all of the people are like super weird and horrible and stuff, and then he's like appearing and disappearing, and again like that, because that's when she's sort of forgetting, and so then that is almost a dream sequence inside the dream sequence, right? And so it's like, and then she wakes up on her back in her room, I think, and then she's like, oh, it was just a dream. And then actually she opens the door, and the person like being weighed down with all of their stuff comes in. Which I think is just, again, I think it's really, really good thing, because they, again, like I think maybe if you watched it for the first time, you'd be like, oh, is this sort of the get out of jail card? She wakes up in her bed and it was all a dream, but then actually she opens the door and they sort of, they rubbish that, which I think, I just think is
nice.
So
good little pun on the rubbish. Yeah, no, I thought that was good to see. That was really clever as well. It's all those little things that they had that, like, oh, you now the next sort of like land or area that you need to get through is like rubbish land or whatever it was, and just the genius idea of what they've built, and the characters that they made in those areas. But so much creativity, so much thought in this, that just like, I mean, obviously, as we said, there was a couple of times there they obviously just went a bit too far, the Fred Rock scene. But I think as a whole, it was really impressive.
Jim Henson, George Lucas, Terry Jones. I mean,
well,
that's pretty epic as far as creativity is concerned, right? So,
how did you describe this to the aliens then?
I went with, and it's 29 words. I was checking it. Imagination makes a story about stopping being a child and doing anything you want seem kind of fun. And this is David Bowie. I presume you've met before. I just presume the aliens know who David Bowie is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, well, wouldn't you? I mean, he's probably renowned across the galaxy. It's like, nice.
How about you? What did you go for?
I put we cover off a week's entry from the Goblin King's Diary.
Nice. You were really in there. You were
just seeing what he's up to that week. This is what's happened. Yeah.
You really lived this movie. You
Actually, in it, yeah. I mean, it would have been fun to be in it for sure. I think it would have been. It would have
Well,
been good.
I think that it's funny, isn't it? Because the amount of sort of puppets and stuff around, I think almost
Yeah,
any other actor probably would have gone insane, but David Bowie, I just presume it
yeah,
was like normal life to David Bowie. He was just like,
yeah,
yeah, there's a lot of puppets and stuff there. All right, he just sort of takes it in
and
stride. Whereas I can imagine anyone else is like, oh, it was torture because I had to perform with all these puppets. Whereas David Bowie's just like, yeah, all right,
yeah,
that's fine.
yeah. That's just what my life normally looks like when I wake up. Yeah, yeah. When all the crystal stuff. Do you think he did that? I was like, does he actually move those
No, no,
crystal
it's
balls?
yeah, no, he doesn't
Okay.
actually. So it's a guy like literally sort of, do the through the arms thing.
Oh,
And so
really?
he's having to
That's a
do it.
shame.
But he's so that guy is having to do it without being able to see
Yeah,
what he's doing, especially when
that's
they're sort of
impressive.
when they're twisting the three golden
Yeah,
ones and C3 ones, and there's a ball on top as well. So apparently that
yeah.
took like hours. And David Bowie, there's an interview, and David Bowie's like, "Oh, I thought it was quite funny, but obviously for him, he was like crouched down behind me trying to do it like one-handed without being able to see, which is
God.
a bit, yeah, which is a bit more
Yeah.
difficult." So
Would have thought
yeah,
you just would have cut away, right? Like, but I mean, it was
yeah.
impressive. I did think he looked realistic. He looked like
Yeah,
he
no,
was doing it.
yeah, they did it. Yeah, yeah, it's like the old, put your hands through someone. I think
Yeah.
that features in another film later on in the
Oh
list.
yeah.
Well,
Further up the
it's
list.
not quite so done,
Interesting.
not quite so good. So we'll see if we
Yeah.
remember when we get to it.
Yeah.
Did you
All
think
right.
there were any grand questions that the film asked or answered?
Uh, Not really. I put can monsters be trusted? I was, because you've
Yeah,
got Hoggles like back and forth. He's there, he's not. You have to steal his jewels, and then you're bribing him, and then he's giving you the peach. I don't know. He's good, he's bad. I mean, he starts the scene where we beat him is he's just weeing into a pond,
yeah, exactly.
and I'm
Killing
just
fairies,
like, yeah.
killing fairies,
I'm
peeing in a
like,
pool.
I'm like, what's happened here? This is a little bit
Welcome
weird.
to the 80s.
Yeah, yeah. And he's a good guy. That's, yeah,
Yeah.
that's random, random. What about you?
Well, I feel like
The
do we give
teenage bit.
Labyrinth enough credit for being the start of basically most pop culture sensations? They call him Hogwarts at some stage, so presumably that's where Harry Potter comes from.
Yes. There was a lot of Harry Potter in this, like the owl, the wolves labyrinth. That's in one of the Harry Potter films, I'm sure. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot it
So
felt connected there.
yeah, so just one more reference. Funnily enough, the owl was the first ever CGI animal on film, and they did all right. I think they
Yeah, it
didn't look
wasn't
too
bad.
bad. So yeah, invented cosplay, invented Harry Potter. She gives him a friendship bracelet, and that
Yeah.
like makes him really want to be her friend. So presumably that's where Taylor Swift got that whole thing from. So Taylor Swift
Yeah.
is ripping off
Yeah.
Labyrinth as well. And then
Yeah.
there's a bit where the camera pans and there's like a face of Bowie in the
Yeah.
rocks at a
In the
certain
rock, yeah.
angle. And there's Channel 4 indents in between things that use that now. So, but basically, Labyrinth is the cultural cornerstone of much of our society, I feel. So,
Who knew? Mate, I feel like this should be moving up the list with all these references. I mean, it's changed our life as we know it.
yeah, which
So,
no one was aware of.
who
But
knew? Yeah.
would you change anything on it, or would you swap out anything?
Yeah, I think as we said, that sort of 20 minutes of I mean, I call it the Fraggle Rock scene because it just reminds me of Fraggle Rock. But yeah, the headless things singing and then the ballroom dance scene. I think those two scenes you could probably to be honest, you could just pull them out and make it like an hour and 20 rather than an hour and
Yeah.
40. Because still, I think I'd watched about 30 minutes of it, maybe 40 minutes of it, and so much had happened. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe it. It's almost like the complete opposite of Never Ending Story, where nothing seems to happen for the first 40 minutes. And so, yeah, I think I'd get rid of those. That'd be for me. What about you?
I just thought she lets Ludo down and he eats her, and then it just ends.
Wow. Well, I did have a question for you. I was like, do you think you're more Ludo or more Hoggle?
uh, Definitely more Hoggle, I would say. I don't know.
Yeah.
Ludo was my daughter's favorite character. When I remember
Yeah.
that I asked her after we watched it, and I said, "Which is your favorite character?" And she said Ludo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I thought Ludo was a good character. That
Yeah.
was another
Would you would
incredible puppet.
you would you more want to do the puppeteering for Hoggle or Ludo? That would
Oh, definitely. Oh, it's a tough one. Probably Hoggle, right? I mean,
yeah,
Ludo's
'cause Ludo's
huge.
face is yeah, and it's Ludo's face isn't that expressive. Although again,
Yeah.
like the acting is just amazing because like there's a few times when like when she asks him about whether he knows through the labyrinth, and he's like, no, and you see him like to really think about it, and so it's
Yeah.
it's just sort of amazing like that it's all done from puppets that like he's like no I don't
Yeah.
actually. So
There's another film that I want to watch now after watching this, but I'll wait until we get onto the algo question. But
yeah
and I want to see if it's as good as this is. I must say, because I think the puppets and just like the detail of the characters have just been incredible in this and Neverending Story. And I
yeah
think this then also has the actual good narrative as well. Whereas I think
yeah.
Neverending Story
He's gonna
didn't
is a Dark
hold up as
Crystal
well.
the one that you're thinking.
It was Dark Crystal, yes. That's the
Yeah,
one that
yeah.
I
Well,
was.
because it's interesting because obviously for Jim Henson, like Dark Crystal
Yeah.
wasn't sort of a great success because it's just
Mm,
puppets. And so this one
yeah.
is like that they kind of they thought it was the combination of real humans and puppets that was going to do well, but
Yeah.
then kind of came back on yeah, home
Yeah.
entertainment,
Like
DVD and
VHS.
video.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
nice.
we won't spoil the reviews, but some people are very upset about the 30th anniversary edition. So,
Wow. Okay. Let's get onto that.
which character did you think you were most like or would want most to be?
Well, there was only one option, really, wasn't there? I mean, I thought we're all going to pick the same person. Yeah, I picked Ambrosia, obviously. I mean, who doesn't
I
want to
thought
be the Dulux dog?
even for you, Bowie would be
Yeah,
a
would be
big
too
call.
far.
So a bit
Yeah.
of a coward, not helping. I'm
Look,
never going to feed you again.
yeah, that was quite funny. I was like, God, I haven't seen a Dulux dog for ages. I forgot about that. Yeah, incredible dog. The fox was funny as well. I like the
Yeah,
fox character. What about
yeah.
you?
The baby it just seemed really great. At the beginning when she's like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
want to tell me a story?" The baby literally looks at her like, "No, that's clearly not
Yeah.
what I want. What are you talking about?"
Yeah. You
Seems
changed my nappy. Stop talking
yeah,
to me.
exactly. Yeah, just wipe my nose. I've got
Yeah.
snot all over myself. It really actually seems quite happy in the songs and
Oh yeah.
with all of the puppets and stuff as well.
Yeah.
And even at the end,
Mm.
is wandering around the Escher thing, like having a grand old time. So there's a review, funnily enough, the Roger Ebert review
Oh
talks,
yeah.
which actually in his original review he gives it 1 star. He really didn't like this movie, and he says, "Oh, like
Wow.
it's just a cheap trick to put a baby in peril." And you're just like, no, the baby's never in peril. You never think the
Yeah.
baby's actually unhappy at any point.
No.
Baby seems fine. But in actual fact, the percentage of time crying way more
Yeah.
in the real world than in
With
the
her.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
With the
Like
Goblin King.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. I thought that you'd be
Wow.
at the start. I thought you'd be the goblin when he says, did she say it? Yeah, and everyone says, "Oh, be quiet." That's yeah. I just thought that was more like you. I
Yeah.
do love the worm as well. Come inside
Yeah,
and
the
meet the
worm was good.
missus. I think that's
Yeah,
just
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah.
It's just such a great line. You're like, it just doesn't work on any level. Which is, yeah, just I remember always that was my favorite
Yeah.
puppet, even back in the day. When he's
Yeah.
so oh no, don't go that way. That way
Yeah.
would lead her right to the castle.
Yeah. Thankfully, she didn't go that way. That was good. There were some really good pieces that linked into it, and this turns out nicely into the favorite lines, I guess. I
Yeah.
actually, for this one, my most favorite line was the one that you actually called out on the podcast as the intro from last week. So when she says that's not fair, and he says, "You say that so often. I wonder what your basis for comparison is." I was like, that's such a good line. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, that was the
Yeah.
one that
I'm
you
gonna
picked
use
out for
that
the episode.
when my
Yeah.
daughter becomes a teenager. I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah. Yeah.
she's gonna be like,
Yeah.
stop quoting movies at me, Dad.
Yeah. I don't want to. I've already got all the podcasts you're going to make me listen to. I don't. And down the quotes as well. Did you have any other good lines?
I thought when she says, "Where is he?" and he says, "You know very well where he is." I thought that she should have just said England.
Yeah,
because he's
maybe.
so
Yeah,
he's such an English accent, considering it's in
yeah,
America and just no one mentions it. And then yeah, at the end he says, "Just let me rule you, and you can have everything you want." And actually, that's what they've changed the Pledge of Allegiance in the UK citizenship with King Charles. That's actually that's what he says
really
to everyone who becomes a new citizen. Yeah,
amazing.
just let me
Yeah,
rule you, and you
well,
can have everything you want. So
yes,
yeah, no, it's good. So onto the reviews. Some classics here.
yeah,
One of them is a roller coaster ride. Being a
yeah,
child of the 80s, I had of course seen Labyrinth when I was younger. In the
yeah.
intervening years, I developed a slight phobia of creepy 80s puppets for some reason. Jim Henson has
Okay,
a lot to answer for, although Sesame Street, lacking in rubber faces, is acceptable, as is Fraggle Rock at a push. My young mind had interpreted Labyrinth as a dark, rubber faced thing with a creepy 80s atmosphere, so I had avoided
yeah.
this film for as long as possible. Until this Christmas, when my wife received it as a present. It was inevitable. I would have to face my fears. It wasn't that bad.
And is that the end of the review?
No, it goes on for a little bit.
Gee, I was going to say,
I
we've
thought
literally got that entire life history, and then just, yeah, it wasn't that bad. I mean,
it
I'm
wasn't
here
that
for a
bad.
review.
Yeah, that would have been that would have been a better place just to cut it off. It wasn't that bad. There was quite a few of
Yeah, it wasn't
people
that bad.
who said grandchildren found this a fun film. The kids enjoyed this film. A great sci-fi horror film for children. All 3 stars. So the kids really liked it, but they don't care. They don't care. They're only going to give it 3 stars,
Yeah.
even though it's a kids movie. And they decided, doesn't matter.
Do you think it? I wonder if does it automatically default to 3 stars, and people just keep forgetting to update it to move it along.
No,
Especially,
you
I'm
have to.
thinking if it's grandparents as well. Maybe they're just like, oh, I don't know what happened. I put some comments in and then just press the return button.
I think they were just like, well, the kids liked it, but I don't care about my kids, so I'm going to give it 3 stars.
Yeah, I mainly
What do they
hate my
know?
kids.
They're
Yeah,
kids.
yeah, in this world.
Someone said a cult film filled with puppets, 80s fashion, random songs, and a bizarre David Bowie and a Tina Turner wig with nods to Cinderella and Wizard of Oz. Just go with the flow and enjoy. Still only 3
Yeah.
stars. That reads as a 5-star review
Good.
in
does.
my opinion.
On your list. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then Amazon 3-star reviews continue to teach me different languages. So this week we have Le film est excellent, mais on y trouve seulement la traduction français de France et non français canadien. So
wow.
I'm fairly
So now you
fairly
can speak
confident.
French Canadian.
Well, not watching this film because the translations are not in French Canadian. So yeah, so that's good. And then someone very strangely at the end ordered DVD the 5th of the 12th, received the 5th of the 25th. Oh, it's American. So ordered it on the 12th of May, received it on the 25th of May by US mail from around Kennesaw, GA. Those hillbillies need to get the Yankees out of their drawers for sure.
Earth is that?
Not sure.
We might
not
have
sure
to
what
look at
happened
this
there.
person's other reviews and see if there's any other gems that we could take.
Just not sure what happened there. I think that's reasonable. 13 days delivery. I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think? Better or worse if it came out today? Considering it did awfully at the time, it didn't make any money at the box office.
I really wasn't sure about this one. I was really trying to think like whether I thought it would be better or not. I think if it was still as it is now, like it was the same film with Bowie in it, I think it would do really well because there's that. I think that's that connection with him, which I think he's become even bigger since since he's passed away as well. So I feel like if Bowie was still in it, I think if we brought this out to cinema, more people would go and see it. I think if you changed it and took him out of it, but tried to keep the concept the same with the puppets, I don't think it would do brilliantly. I don't know. What did you think on this?
I think if it was a little bit lighter, I think maybe it would find an audience with the kids. I think it's more kids maybe go to the cinema now than it used to. But I think like puppetry, especially, obviously, just isn't that popular now, which I do think is a real shame because I think I think it does really stand up for me, and it is better than CGI a lot of the time. To be honest, I think it's Yeah, I think it's again
It's a
we've spoken about whether you have lower expectations because it's the
true.
80s, but yeah, no, I think it really stands up. So
Yeah, but then I even think about stuff like Wallace and Gromit and Aardman. Like I feel like
mm,
they're like really creative and they're
yeah,
really impressive as well. And I just think maybe it's same with like Kubo and the Two Strings. Sometimes just using a different art form actually, and that creativity you can really appreciate it. And I
yeah,
think CGI is obviously incredible and it has come on so much and it is amazing. But that doesn't mean to say that we have to have every film has CGI in it. We could still
yeah.
try these different modes as well. I think that would be nice. But yeah,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, and I guess because
so,
CGI is what it's trying to do is sort of make the unreal real, but with something
yeah,
like this and with yeah stop motion, it's about the art. It's not about okay, this is based in real life. It's about seeing
yeah,
something new, which I think is great, and why film
yeah,
arguably is like a great a
yeah,
great art form because it doesn't have to seem real. Again, it's just entertainment, and it's like watching
yeah.
and seeing the visuals on the screen, like so.
Yeah, that was a great 3-star review for films, Andy. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
Thanks.
exactly. Yeah, but the DVD transfer came with a scratch. Or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But Amazon took 4 days to deliver this. Yeah.
people were very unhappy with the transfer for the 30th
So what
anniversary. They
happened?
didn't. They just said that it was grainy and it
Oh
wasn't
wow, and
like
that's
a
it.
new. Yeah, it wasn't a new
What about
trans.
the other Roger Ebert review? Did you get that as well? Because you're saying the first one he did was 1 star, which is obviously pretty damning. Did he
Yeah,
do a follow up?
he's pretty damning about it kind of all the way through. Funnily enough, he just sort of says that he just doesn't feel like that the story sort of has any sort of tension in it, and almost sort of says for him it seemed that the
Hmm.
puppets were just in it to be in it, and that they didn't kind of add anything. He says, that the special
Well,
effects are very impressive and the puppets are very impressive, but then he says, yeah, that there's no suspense because, as he
yeah,
says,
it's a
like
kids
nothing
movie.
needs to happen because the rules always change. So he just says that he didn't think that the
Wow, he's a
story.
stickler for rules, isn't he? He doesn't like the. I bet he, when
Yeah.
David Bowie moved the clock forward, he was like, turned it off. I'm not watching this
why is there th-
anymore.
why is there 13 hours on that? But then, funnily enough, on his website, it does say one of the key characters in this film is Toby, played by Toby Froud. Froud is a midget who's been given a Muppet head to wear, and although the head is a good special effects construction, I kept wanting to see real eyes and real expressions. So obviously, like that, no, that's Hoggle, and that's not
Yeah,
played by like Toby's the baby. So I don't know.
yeah,
Maybe he
wow.
was just confused at the time and didn't know. Maybe he had to do a lot of reviews that week, and actually,
Yeah, yeah. Might
well,
have just
as
been
we
having a
said
bad.
at the beginning, right? This didn't do very well, and there's lots of other things out. So he
Yeah,
was busy
he was
reviewing
busy.
Karate Kid 2 instead.
I mean, this
Not
is better than Karate Kid 2 for sure. But yeah,
not
let's
not
not go there.
featured not featured later
In
in
the
the
list.
in the
The list.
list. Did he did he review Karate Kid 2? No, didn't doesn't look
No.
like it. So
Well, I mean, this guy. I mean, who does he think he is? I mean, right, come on. I've worked really hard on this algo one because I want to make
okay.
sure. I feel like the robots are getting too close, so we need to step away. I'm
I
confident I'm
would
going to
say
win this week.
that yeah, well, it's interesting. I would say because there's one in theirs that is a bit of an odd one. But what have you
Excellent.
got?
Well, I had Dark Crystal, as previously mentioned, which I think
Yeah.
is right bang on. Princess Bride, also same sort
Yeah.
of area. Wizard of
Yeah.
Oz, we had
Yeah.
mentioned that. And then my slightly left field one that I was debating about whether to
Life is
include or not,
beautiful.
but I think, yeah, yeah. And then Life is Beautiful. Yeah. Can you imagine? Yeah, I think this slightly
Just,
dark kids movie to a
the second
Holocaust
half is a
movie.
bit of
Yeah. Chronicles of Narnia. And I think it is actually
okay.
very similar because there are quite a lot of dark bits in the Chronicles of Narnia. It isn't
Yeah.
actually all, happy Larry as when Aslan's on the table. Sad days.
PC version rather than the movies,
Yeah,
presumably.
the terrible movies. Yeah, yeah. So what? I reckon I've nailed that. Let's see what the algo's got.
Yeah, Algo's Gone, Neverending Story, Alice in Wonderland, Wizard of Oz, Legend, Peter Pan, and then Harry Potter, which
Not,
was the Harry Potter. No,
not
but
even
Alice
Peter
in
Pan as well. It's
Wonderland,
nothing like
Wizard
Peter
of
Pan.
Oz. Well, the new
It's
well,
nothing
funnily enough,
like
it was
Peter
the new
Pan.
one. You don't think?
I don't think I've seen the new one. Who's in the new one?
Yeah, don't know. They didn't do.
Who knows?
Do very well.
This
Yeah.
Peter Pan is all about, it's happy. It's all about him living forever. He's in this. I mean, he's in a fantasy land, but that's
There's
all.
some darkness around Peter Pan, isn't there? There's, I mean,
Don't think so. Other than he wants to stay young forever, and obviously it's not. It's a bit Dorian Gray. But I'm telling you,
we do have a Peter Pan movie coming up in
good.
in a few weeks. So
I think I've won this. I'm going to be disappointed if you're giving this to the Algo.
I mean, so really the one that you went for that they didn't. So they went with Alice in Wonderland. You went with Dark Crystal.
Wizard of Oz, or Wizard of Oz, I would say.
No, because it got Wizard of Oz as well.
I would say it's Narnia versus Harry Potter. I think.
Okay, well, Harry Potter always loses for me. So well done.
Yes. Yes. I knew that'd be the case.
So 24-19. The AI can't actually argue for itself, and so it loses. Take that, AI.
Yes, I've broken that streak there on. It was getting concerted. All right, so it's number 54 on the list. Where's it going?
I think it would stay around here again. I think it's a low.
I thought it might have bookended.
Oh no, I think this is a good place for it to be. I think kind of in comparison to everything else that's Are
you deliberately keeping them in the same position now after I mentioned in the last podcast that we never do this? And now you're just deliberately doing it for
every time. I will say I've spent hours and hours putting it into the list. No, I was trying to, because I was sort of looking at it falling, and I don't think that's right, because I think it's good. No. I would say what I have also noticed is now there's added expectation on films. I feel that you're bringing to it, because we're now at that like halfway through the list. I feel like you're a lot more forgiving of films in like the 90s or the 80s. You're like, this isn't a good film, but it's 80th out of your top 100 movies. Whereas in the last few weeks, you've been a bit like, no, this is in the 50s. What are you talking about? So
well, that's because there were so many good ones that we've gone through, and and then you're throwing up Serenity, which is an absolute pile of rubbish. Giving me that,
and then come at him on Twitter. Come on, brown coats. We're expecting. I think because it is really, really creative, and I think that's really good. And I do like that it's sort of got got kind of the levels to it. But again, I'm not going to keep watching it over and over again. I think it was good, but low 50 again. Like, these are my favorite films of all time, so it's low 50s. Maybe everything else will kind of go lower, and actually it will get pushed down. Who knows? But I would say, because funnily enough, Princess Bride is I think sort of the one that I'd have the most direct comparison to. Yeah, and I would say that I do like this more than Princess Bride. Like, Princess Bride is good, but I just think this has more creativity, and it's the creativity that really kind of makes it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the creativity is great, and the story, I think, just holds together nicely. Even though it's weird, it is still it's constantly moving on a journey, and it is going through a labyrinth. So anything could be in the labyrinth. Whereas the Princess Bride is a little bit, I don't know. Yeah, this definitely feels better. I'm with you on that. Yeah.
How about you then? Very, very high up. Then if you're pushing for me to move it up.
Yeah. Well, actually, funnily enough, mentioning the Princess Bride, I've got it 9 of 47, so firmly in the good
10,
section.
Top 10 movie.
Yeah, top 10, and just below Malcolm X, and just above the Princess Bride. Funnily enough. So,
Princess Bride and Labyrinth probably a better double feature than Malcolm X and Labyrinth. I would say.
Yeah, although I mean, I did really enjoy Malcolm X. I thought it was a very good film. I hadn't seen it
Yeah.
before, and I
Yeah,
was very impressed, and I learned a lot that I didn't know, which was also good.
yeah. Bit jarring as a
But
double feature, I think. So.
it would be tough. It would be tough getting through it. Yeah, but yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, cool.
Yeah, it's a good week after a couple of
Oh, that's some
well,
rocky
no,
ones.
yeah, half and half, I think. So no, that's great.
Yeah.
So for next week, it's classic. We've got another returning guest. For a quote,
Oh, yeah.
thought I'd go, a little bit off piece to see if the fans will know it. So someone says, I don't believe it," and the reply is just, "And that is why you fail." See,
I
some
know
people
it.
will know it. See, some people will be like, "Oh yeah, it's easy. What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
Thanks as ever to Tom Miller for the theme song, and we'll see you again next week.